hearings for agencies under the jurisdiction of the Financial Services and General Government Subcommittee. Today, we welcome the Administrator of the Small Business Administration, my friend and former colleague, Kelly Loeffler. Thank you very much for being here. I'd like to also extend a warm welcome to Senator Reid as the new ranking member of the subcommittee. I look forward to working with you, Senator Reid, in a productive and bipartisan manner to address the important issues that face our nation. Small businesses employ 61.7 million people, nearly 46.4% of the U.S. workforce, and generate a comparable share of U.S. economic activity. To thrive, these businesses must constantly innovate, remain agile, and manage their resources carefully. Failure to do so can mean failure to survive. In contrast, some federal agencies seem to expand regardless of physical constraints, often without making difficult trade-offs that small businesses have to confront every day. Administrator Loeffler brings with her a distinguished career in business. She understands what it takes to succeed and the challenges that entrepreneurs face. I trust she'll apply her vast experience to ensure the SBA operates efficiently and uses taxpayer dollars wisely. The Small Business Administration's initial budget request proposes total funding of $600 million in 2026 to manage its operations, its grants, and its loan programs. This direct appropriation supports a massive lending portfolio as well. In the current fiscal year, the SBA will guarantee approximately $72 billion in business loans. This includes $35 billion under the 7A loan program, which is SBA's flagship tool. It's estimated to back over 50,000 loans through private lenders with SBA guarantees. The 504 loan program, focused on real estate and equipment, will provide another $16 billion. The Small Business Investment Company program will support $6 billion in private investment capital for small businesses. Finally, the Secondary Markets Guarantee Program will provide a $15 billion backstop to help lenders securitize SBA-backed loans and maintain liquidity. Since most manufacturers in the United States are small businesses, the SBA is uniquely positioned to assist them in rebuilding their domestic supply chains. In addition to business lending, the SBA also plays a critical role in disaster recovery. And I want to thank the SBA for their critical work in helping Tennesseans recover from Hurricane Helene in East Tennessee. Disaster loans help individuals and businesses rebuild physical assets and recover lost income. Applicants must be located in federally declared disaster areas and meet credit criteria and repayment standards. These programs collectively represent an important source of credit, helping both entrepreneurs and disaster survivors. Thank you again, Administrator Loeffler, for testifying today. I look forward to hearing how you plan to manage your portfolio efficiently and responsibly. And now I'd like to turn to Senator Reid for his opening statement.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this hearing. It is our first hearing, as you noted, and I look forward to working together as we advance the 2026 bill on a productive and very bipartisan basis. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And welcome, Administrator Loeffler and colleague Loeffler. Thank you for your service. You are here on behalf of the Small Business Administration, and we look forward to your testimony. As we all know, small businesses make up nearly 44% of America's GDP. In total, there are 34.8 million small businesses in the United States, which employ nearly half of American workers. In my home state of Rhode Island, there are over 100,000 small businesses employing the majority of Rhode Island workers. But the uncertainty created by President Trump's tariff regime is putting many of these businesses at risk. Indeed, where margins are tight, disruptive tariffs can sink a small business. And despite the recent 90-day timeout on some of these tariffs, Yale University researchers say that our nation's tariffs are currently at their highest level since the Great Depression. These blanket taxes, and tariffs are taxes, are also raising costs directly or indirectly on every good that small business needs. Indeed, I recently heard from Mills Coffee Roasting Company, a coffee roaster located in Providence that was founded in the 1890s. The president's blanket 10% tariff will increase Mills Coffee's cost by around $400,000 this year. That's a big number for small business. And coffee can only be grown in certain climates, meaning there is almost no domestic alternative to the coffee beans they import. In other words, despite the president's claims, his tariffs on Mills Coffee simply punish American companies that provided jobs for over 150 years without bringing the production of their imports, coffee beans, back to the United States. As the president's off-again tariffs, royal supply chains, and small business finances. The question is, what is a small business doing to meet the moment? What we're seeing is cutting staff that respond during disasters, closing offices that help coordinate local businesses access to SBA programs in times of economic uncertainty, freezing and canceling millions of dollars in grants that help small businesses start, grow, and thrive. And further, in President Trump's fiscal year 2026 skinny budget, the administration proposes cutting SBA by over 30%, including the elimination of nearly all of SBA's training, counseling, and mentorship programs that support small business across the country. And one asks the question, how does slashing these resources for small business help local companies grow or outcompete their foreign rivals? And it is obvious that this skinny budget eliminates 15 of the 16 entrepreneurial development programs, retaining only small business development centers. And one of those 15 programs slated for elimination is the SBA Veterans Outreach Program, which provides targeted veteran small business programming. And frankly, this is unacceptable. Veterans have served, they've earned the respect, and more than the respect of the American people, and they're uniquely positioned to be small business owners, given their leadership skills and what they've learned from the military service. And in fact, we have to do much more, not less, for these veterans. And Administrator Loeffler, I look forward to working with you, but we all understand, as you did, particularly as a senator from Georgia, that the power of the purse and responsibility to conduct oversight of the executive branch rests with Congress. So we would ask that you and your colleagues and fellow workers be responsive to us in terms of any requests we make for information. And in fact, 713 section of the Financial Services and General Government Act explicitly bars any agency from preventing its employees to converse with members of Congress. And we were a bit troubled when SBA didn't bother to brief the subcommittee staff following its March 21st announcement that it would be slashing the agency's workforce by 43%. And the responsiveness has to be improved, frankly, Madam Director. And you appreciate that as a former senator. I'm sure many times you were frustrated, and please remember those days. There's a lot of work to do, and we want to do it together, and we want to make progress for the country. And thank you, Madam Administrator, for being here, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to the Administrator now for her opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman and Ranking Member Reed and Chairman Haggerty. Certainly my thoughts are with Tennesseans as they endure the fallout from this crisis. The SBA will be on the ground with them. I want to say thank you to all the members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before all of you today to discuss the President's fiscal year 2026 discretionary budget request for the U.S. Small Business Administration. This budget reflects our agency's return to its mission with a clear strategy: streamline services, eliminate waste, and ensure every taxpayer dollar delivered measurable results for America's small businesses and taxpayers. It consolidates duplicative operations, shifts resources to our field offices on the front lines, and refocuses the agency on proven solutions, including our Capital Access Program and nationwide network of small business development centers. It reflects the President's belief that small businesses are not just part of the economy, they are the engine of it, and that to build a stronger, more secure, and more prosperous America, we must put Main Street and our job creators first. I'm pleased to report that under President Trump's leadership and through the reforms we've implemented at the SBA, that's exactly what's happening. Main Street is making a historic comeback. Since January, President Trump has cut core inflation to its lowest level since 2021. He's secured over $10 trillion in private sector investment, and he's delivered 500,000 new jobs while deregulating after the last 4 years of massive bureaucratic expansion of the regulatory state. He's brought dozens of countries, including China, back to the negotiating table for fair trade deals. Job creators and workers once again know that they have a seat at the table, and they know this administration has their back. Our economy is spring-loaded for growth, especially on Main Street, and I'm pleased to report that the SBA has never been more prepared to help small businesses lead the America First economic comeback. Since January 20th, we've undertaken a sweeping overhaul of the agency to refocus it on its statutory mission of supporting small business and fueling economic growth through free enterprise. We're committed to cutting red tape, restoring accountability, and delivering capital to the job creators who power economic opportunity, growth, and innovation. When we arrived at the SBA, it was bloated and dysfunctional, weighed down by a work-from-home bureaucracy that promoted a partisan political agenda. The Biden administration presided over unprecedented levels of fraud and 4 straight years of failed audits. Our flagship 7A loan program was mismanaged to the tune of $400 million in negative cash flow in just 1 year. Oversight and accountability had broken down along with any sense of fiscal responsibility to taxpayers. Common sense had left the building along with our workforce. That era is over, and it is a new day at the SBA. I come to this role with 3 decades of private sector experience. Following an extensive review of the financials and operating metrics, I launched a full-scale reorganization to right-size this agency, returning to pre-pandemic staffing levels. Our team is unleashing resources that had been consolidated in Washington back into the field among our 68 district offices in local communities. We canceled wasteful contracts for total cost savings of more than $3 billion. I'm proud that we're working alongside the DOGE team, who are not partisans, but patriots and business leaders who care deeply about the financial future of this great nation. We also took urgent action to restore the financial integrity of our core loan programs by reinstating the lender fees and restoring underwriting standards, eliminating the do-what-you-do criteria that put taxpayers on the hook for billions of dollars. We implemented new identity and citizenship verification protocols to ensure that loans only go to eligible businesses, not illegal aliens or fraudsters. We made it a priority to depoliticize the agency and end the era of picking winners and losers based on race or ideological belief, replacing that with our nation's strong tradition of free enterprise. We eliminated DEI mandates, terminated the Green Lender Initiative, and withdrew SBA from voter registration schemes. We began relocating SBA offices out of sanctuary cities that refuse to enforce federal immigration law. At the same time, we're helping rebuild American industry through the SBA's Made in America Manufacturing Initiative. We're backing new legislation, bipartisan legislation, to give small manufacturers additional capital. And just yesterday, we introduced a first-of-its-kind onshoring portal to help small businesses find American-made supply chains and partners. The results are immediate and they're measurable. In our first 100 days, SBA loan approvals have skyrocketed by 80% compared to the same time under the last administration. Loans to the smallest businesses, those with 5 or fewer employees, have nearly doubled, and the share of federal contracts going to small businesses is now 23%, up from just 18% when we came into office. With new opportunity and a strong economic agenda, demand for capital is up. Businesses are growing and confidence is rising across the country. I'm proud to say this is not the SBA of the past. This is a leaner, stronger, and unapologetically pro-small business agency. It's one that supports American industry and its workers, that respects taxpayer dollars, and will deliver results. I have seen the impact of these reforms firsthand. From Bay City to Boise, small business owners are expanding, hiring, and reinvesting in their communities. They know that for the first time since the first Trump administration, this administration is on their side. The SBA is once again serving the people who built this great nation, not the globalist bureaucrats or partisan political interests, but the small defense manufacturer, the local construction company, and the tech company founders who put everything on the line to live the American dream. Chairman Hagerty and members of the committee, as a former small business owner and employee myself, I believe firmly in the dignity of work, the American dream, and the power of free enterprise to uplift every job creator across this country. That's what guides our work at the SBA, and I'm proud to say it's also the vision that we're returning to at the SBA. Thank you so much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Administrator, and I want to particularly applaud the SBA's efforts in the Made in America Manufacturing Initiative, and I especially want to thank you for spending National Small Business Week in my home state of Tennessee in Nashville, meeting with small businesses across the state. They really appreciated your presence there, helping Tennessee small business owners. And I think everybody knows this, but these small businesses are the backbone of America. And I appreciate your commitment to helping our small businesses thrive. To advance this objective, the President has proposed moving new lending of up to $10 million per small U.S. manufacturer from the SBA. Are you intending to provide this funding from an existing program or from a new program?
Chairman, thank you for the question, and it was a great honor to celebrate National Small Business Week in Nashville and talk to everyone from contractors to restaurants and see that businesses thriving. And that's what the Made in America Manufacturing Finance Act is about, is to help our businesses thrive even more. The last time that a loan size increase happened was about 15 years ago. So we're raising our manufacturing loan limits under the proposed bipartisan legislation from $5 million to $10 million. That would be provided still at zero subsidy to taxpayers, like our entire 7A and 504 loan program operates, meaning no cost to taxpayers, because those loan programs are supported by annual lender fees and guarantee fees.
So no new appropriation required?
No additional appropriation. Unfortunately, the Biden administration had waived some of those fees and reduced them, so that loan program under the 4-year cohort of the Biden administration is negative cash flow to the tune of $2.2 billion. We will never let that happen, and we will alert this committee should we have any further issues beyond that. But our program will operate at zero subsidy for taxpayers.
Got it, got it. As Congress examines tax policy, can you explain how immediate expensing and tax cuts on domestic production will be able to strengthen domestic manufacturing?
Well, absolutely. That's what I hear as I travel across the country meeting with manufacturers. They are telling me that their business is spring-loaded for investment. These tax cuts are absolutely critical to not just manufacturers, but to all small businesses who want to invest that next dollar, but have the uncertainty that the tax bill still has not been passed. So small businesses are telling me they need that tax bill more than anything. And we know that it's not just spring-loaded, but between the access to capital we're providing, the tax cuts, the deflation, the counter-inflationary economic environment where investment is encouraged, that this economy is spring-loaded once the tax cuts come through.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I frankly think that as the investment occurs, more jobs will be created, more economic activity therefore occurs. This positive feedback loop is going to be extraordinary for the American economy, and we'll be back on the same track we have been in the past, and I look forward to seeing your leadership in that. Administrator, the Biden administration's agency rulemakings incurred nearly $1.4 trillion in incremental compliance cost. That's a drag on economic growth. The Trump administration and Congress have a clear mandate to streamline government operations and roll back excessive regulations. And I don't think this is deregulation for its own sake. It's about making the government serve our citizens more effectively. But some have raised concerns that streamlining at SBA, including some reductions in force that you mentioned earlier, could undermine the agency's ability to function. I want to know how you respond to this question and how ongoing streamlining efforts actually contribute to SBA's efficiency.
Chairman, this is an important question. Taxpayers want to know that government is serving them and serving them efficiently, and that's what we're doing at the SBA. The agency had doubled under the last administration in terms of size and workforce, but yet as we come into President Trump's administration, we've increased loan volume by 80% in our 7A loan program. We're doing more with less, just like small businesses across Main Street have to do. We're more accountable to taxpayers. We're reining in waste, fraud, and abuse. And so what small businesses can expect to see is more of the SBA on Main Street. We're deconsolidating it out of Washington back into the field. So small businesses will actually have more resources where they're located. We're working for Main Street, not the bureaucracy.
Much appreciated. I'll turn it over to Ranking Member Reed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Administrator. Earlier this month, you indicated that President Trump's tariffs will bring a period of change for small business, and I think that is right. Many, as I indicated in my opening statement, are very, very concerned about the cost of these tariffs. More than that, that the National Federation of Independent Businesses in their monthly business index have saw that small business confidence levels have dropped every month since President Trump took office, which indicates that small business people are not exactly feeling yet or even expecting many of the things you described. What are you doing right now to help businesses get through this period of change?
Ranking Member Reed, thank you for your question. Look, President Trump believes in the American worker and American industry. We have to have that back in this country, and the SBA is going to support him in those efforts completely, because what we have seen across this country is a hollowing out of our productive capacity that didn't just cost us 7,000 factories. It cost us 5 million jobs in small towns where I grew up, where our union training center in a town of 600 closed. It was one of the last major employers. So, and that's as manufacturing jobs have left. We can never let that happen again, and we can never let it happen again that small businesses rely on the Chinese Communist Party for their productive supply. We can do better. That's why the SBA is looking to increase onshoring through our lending programs, but also yesterday announced our Make Onshoring Great Again portal that connects small businesses with 1 million suppliers across this country. As I've traveled from East Coast to West Coast, I have seen the incredible productive capacity and capabilities of our hardworking men and women in our factories across this country. And while the media narrative likes to say we can't make things in this country, I'm seeing it done in real time, and I'm seeing an investment in these factories. I'm seeing a skilled workforce being created. I'm seeing jobs and economic opportunities. Just on the factory floor last week, I met a young man. He's 21 years old. He had been at the CNC machine operator for 2 years. He just got married and bought a house. He has no student loan debt. He has a great future ahead of him as a skilled technician. And this is the new color boom that President Trump is going to bring to this country, where we can make things in this country again, where we can export again. Well, we will have open export markets for small businesses who have 400 pages stacked against them in the U.S. Trade Reps report against our small businesses that no one has fought back on. And so I'm excited to see what's happening across this country. It's a manufacturing renaissance, and I'm grateful to President Trump.
Well, thank you. It's going to take many years to reshore a significant number of businesses. And frankly, many small businesses will not be able to last that long unless SBA actively engages with them, helps them. And I hope you're appreciative of that point. And one of the major reasons we've had a diminution of our manufacturing was the NAFTA agreement, the CAFTA agreement, and the USMCA. And I opposed all those agreements, but it was both Republican and Democrats that passed them. We have to make up for that right now, and SBA has to be in the lead. You indicated that DOGE is working with you, and you also indicated it's nonpartisan. Elon Musk is nonpartisan. Is that your conclusion?
I'm really proud of the work we've done with our DOGE team.
I'm going to ask you a specific question, Director. I know you've learned the filibuster in the United States Senate, and you've demonstrated it quite well, but is Elon Musk nonpartisan?
Look, our DOGE team is a group of young men who are supporting our efforts, and I call the shots at the SBA. I'm the one calling the shots at the SBA, and I appreciate the support I've gotten in terms of some of the quantitative work that I wanted done in analyzing the financial and operational metrics, and I have made all those decisions, and they're based on the business skills I learned over 3 decades.
Does DOGE have access to data of American small businesses?
I can only speak to my team are members of the Small Business Administration, and they comply with all the laws that apply to all small business employees.
So they're not DOGE people?
They are members of the Small Business Administration.
They're hired members of the
Correct. They're employees of the SBA.
SBA. Temporary employees, or?
They're active and current employees.
Okay. Have DOGE reimbursed the SBA for any support they received from you?
Senator, Chairman, Ranking Member, could you please clarify your question?
Yeah. DOGE goes in, they do quite a bit of work and encounter costs. Do they turn to you and ask to be reimbursed, or what is the salaries typically of these young men?
They are employees of the SBA. I can come back to you if, with regard to any compensation details as an employee, but
I would appreciate that.
be
Thank
happy
you,
to do that.
Administrator, and I look forward to the second round.
Thank you, Ranking Member Reed. I'll open the floor up to questions right now, and I will turn to Senator Mullen.
Thank you, Chairman and Administrator. Thank you so much for being here. You know, my Democrat colleagues continue to rail on President Trump's tariffs, and it seems like a lot of my colleagues forgot that of the literally hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs that have left the United States and the trillions of dollars of not just income throughout our communities, but also the billions of dollars of investments that we've lost over the last 30 years. And yet they're completely silent on the fact that over the last previous administration, they averaged 4.95% inflation at a high point of 9.71%, which was a greater cost than these tariffs will ever be on our economy. And so I appreciate you standing strong and fighting, and this administration for fighting the way that they have. But with that being said, while you were on your manufacturing tour across America, which I love, I'm actually a little jealous of. I think that'd be absolutely awesome to walk into all these manufacturing plants and see these proud workers making a living and developing tomorrow's future. What did you hear about the tariffs?
Senator, first of all, it is such an honor to work for the SBA in terms of supporting the manufacturing initiatives, because you're exactly right. As we walk onto factory floors and we see the pride in American-made, we see the American flag hanging in that factory, we're talking to apprentices coming in to manufacturing. It's absolutely encouraging, and they're encouraged by the Trump administration's belief in the American worker and restoring this industry, because we did lose millions and millions of jobs. And that's why the SBA got to work as soon as President Trump unleashed what is a brilliant fair trade agenda. We have to have this in this country. It's the first president that has had the backbone to stand up for the American worker. So that is why we immediately responded with providing more capital. We've already set records for manufacturing loans in President Trump's first 100 days, issuing 1,120 manufacturing loans, an increase of 74% of the 7A loans compared to Biden's first 100 days. So we continue to do that. We're working with manufacturers around skilled workforce. I was at a great technical and trade school last week where we saw students learning everything from welding to CNC machine operating to composites materials, and then finally ensuring that we are advocating for those important tax cuts that will affect everyone and that will allow us to enable this boom in manufacturing made in America through the not just the 199A deduction, but the 179 and the accelerated depreciation and immediate expensing. So,
In your opening statement, you had talked about partisan funding that had been riddled through the SBA. Can you expand on that?
Senator, what we found was an agency that was almost aimed at social engineering through its loan programs. We saw DEI programs that crowded out our veterans programs for small business, statutory goals in contracting. We saw the use of trying to expand loan limits for Green New Deal companies, which are obviously a scam, and we ended that. We saw lending companies giving licenses so that they could do DEI-based lending. We recently reformed that, announcing that Community Advantage SBLC's licenses would be rescinded if they didn't meet capital requirements. These are mission-based, nonprofit, undercapitalized groups such as the Black Investment Fund, the Progress Fund, the People's Fund, and we saw some of their delinquencies as high as 30% when our portfolio runs at roughly 3%, including those terrible data points. So we're really reining that in for the benefit of small businesses who qualify all across this country, and to make sure they don't disadvantage or advantage anyone unequally.
You're starting to actually have loans based on merit? Not based on
Yes.
political ideas.
Yeah,
That's great that you're finally getting politics out of the SBA. That's where it should be.
and that's why the loans are growing. That's why the lenders are coming back to the program. They trust that these are fair and qualified loans.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the job you're doing.
Thank you.
Senator Coons.
Thank you, Chairman Hagerty, Ranking Member Reed. Thank you, Administrator Loeffler. Good to be with you again. It is unfortunate we don't have in front of us a full budget. That's the case of all the appropriations subcommittees on which I serve. What's the timeline on which you'll be providing us with an actual budget for us to review and work with you on?
Senator, we hope to have it to you in the coming weeks. I don't have a hard deadline for you, but as soon as we have it, we will be providing that to you.
As you can imagine, it's sort of difficult for us to do our work if the budget hasn't arrived and we can't have it in front of us. I think my small home state is typical. Small businesses are 98% of all the businesses and employ 2/3 of our workforce, and the SBA is crucial for those who want to start a new business. It provides a great resource for new and existing businesses, and I want to briefly at the outset recognize the service of Michelle Harris, the SBA State Director, who is retiring after 35 years of federal service and who dedicated her career to lots of small businesses. I am concerned by actions you've taken to cut over 40% of the workforce at SBA and close regional offices. And from what we have in the skinny budget, you're proposing fairly significant cuts to an agency that I think does very important work. I wanted to focus for a moment, if I could, on a small but mighty part of SBA, which is the SCORE program. SCORE, as you know, was founded in my hometown of Wilmington by DuPont volunteers, and it is the definition of an efficient government program. There are 10,000 SCORE volunteers all over the country in every SBA office and district that help new small businesses launch. In fact, last year, these 10,000 volunteers helped launch 63,000 small businesses. And Congress appropriated $17 million to it. With a full-year continuing resolution, this program should receive another $17 million. In your confirmation hearing, you agreed you'd want to work on a bipartisan reauthorization of this program. And the most recent study said that for every dollar we appropriate to SCORE, it generates $45 just in new federal tax revenue. So I think this is a wonderful program, well worth saving. I understand you're here defending a budget that is not complete or finished and that may reflect choices not your own. Just that's always true. Could you provide us with an update on the funding that's been appropriated and whether it's being dispersed? And tell me anything about how you see SCORE fitting into the mission of the agency to deliver highly efficient and effective support for small business.
Senator, thank you for your question, and congratulations, Michelle. And Senator, I also want to thank you for your support of the Made in America manufacturing bill. Look, as I've traveled across the country and done dozens of roundtables with our resource partners that provide technical assistance, be it SCORE, Women's Business Centers, our small business development centers, and others, I've seen a fair amount of confusion by small businesses about who they should be working with. And within the budget constraints, it's important that we unify and streamline this agency so that small businesses have the benefit of going direct to the agency, which we have 1,000 small business development centers that operate across the country that provide direct access to our resource partners as well as direct access to our lenders and the SBA. And so those SBDCs are critical in delivering those services to our small businesses. And we think that unifying and streamlining it will create a better user experience for our small businesses and have more accountability for taxpayers of eliminating overlapping services that often result in confusion for our borrowers.
But if I might, I think SCORE fits a unique niche in that it is seasoned, experienced, often retired business executives, people who've got personal experience financing, running, whether it's a manufacturing business, a service business, and at very little cost to the federal government, they provide a service. I hear you on the potentially, we could debate it, confusing array of different centers and missions, but I think SCORE fits a unique window. If I might, with your forbearance, one more question, Mr. Chairman. We also discussed during your confirmation hearing the SBIR program. I recently introduced with Senator Curtis the Ramp for Innovators Act, which expedites the application process, improves technical and business assistance, and focuses more on commercialization. Some have rightfully criticized SBIR grants as leading to circular not moving towards the workplace. This is a bill that Senator Rubio and I previously worked on. SBA plays a critical role in the success of SBIR. Can you assure us when we get your full budget that your agency will have the staffing to successfully implement this valuable program that takes research and innovation to the marketplace?
Senator, we've been reviewing the SBIR program, and we feel that it's languished in the last 4 years and needs attention to achieve the important aims of the program so that critical technologies can be brought to market. And in this, a reauthorization year for SBIR, I look forward to working with you and your office to understand how those programs can be strengthened across all agencies that utilize this important effort. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Coons. I'll turn to Senator Fisher now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Administrator Loeffler. It is such a pleasure to see you again, and I want to congratulate you on your nomination, confirmation, and also thank you for all the good work you are already doing in this position. Your enthusiasm is evident, your passion is evident, and I know you will continue to provide the services that this administration has focused on and that are need to happen for the small businesses across this country. So thank you for that. As you know, in the 2017 tax bill, it included my bill to create a tax credit for employers who offer paid family and medical leave to their employees. The credit is the only national paid family medical leave policy that has ever been enacted into federal law. The credit expires at the end of this year, and I've introduced legislation to make a couple of tweaks to make the credit permanent. I was pleased to see that the House included my bill in their tax package, and I look forward to working with my Senate colleagues to see that it is included in the final product. I believe that the SBA can play a critical role in increasing awareness of the credit. One of the tweaks we made in the bill was to require SBA to do targeted education, outreach, and technical assistance on the credit and how employers can use this. And when we designed the bill, our hope was that small businesses would be able to take advantage of it, to offer their hourly employees a paid family medical leave that many of them do not have the opportunity to have as employees from larger businesses and corporations have that. We know that over 75% of small business owners support a federal financial incentives for small employers to provide paid leave benefits. Another survey tells us that for small business owners who don't offer paid leave, over 58% reported that while they wanted to, they couldn't afford to. So I think awareness, education, assistance are keys here, and I think the SBA will play a large role in helping to get the word out. Again, this is a tax credit, pro-business, pro-family, not a mandate, not a new entitlement. Like in FY25, I also intend to secure funding for the SBA to conduct that outreach. Can you commit to me that SBA will carry out this work diligently and quickly once we're able to get the authority and the funding to do the work?
Well, Senator, thank you for your leadership in this important area, and you brought it to my attention during my confirmation process, so I'm pleased to hear that it's progressed, and it's timely because we at the SBA have refocused on our field organization in our 68 regional offices, and as you just heard, our 1,000 small business development centers that would be an excellent conduit to support awareness and implementation and support. It's one more reason that this tax bill is so critical to small businesses across this country. So I look forward to learning more about that with you and your team, and welcome the conversation.
Thank you. Earlier this year, I joined with my Alaska colleagues, Senator Sullivan and Murkowski, in sending you a letter requesting the SBA issue guidance on SBA's contract program, 8A contract program, clarifying that the recent executive order that eliminates DEI programs does not impact contracting with Native-owned companies. And I appreciate your response that we have gotten guaranteeing that tribes will not be impacted by that executive order. It is important that we provide support to and for our Native-owned companies through the 8A contract program, including conducting outreach through the Office of Native American Affairs. As we look at this program, first of all, will you commit to continuing to work with me on ensuring that SBA tribal efforts are protected, but also to be able to stress the importance of this program in our outreach and support for our Native tribes?
Absolutely, Senator. We look forward to talking with you further about this and actually visiting your state to learn more about the key issues there for small businesses and our Native Americans. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to welcoming you to Nebraska. And once again, good to see you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Murray.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for your accommodation. I'm running between several Appropriations committees this afternoon, so I appreciate the opportunity to ask Administrator Loeffler a few questions. Now, first of all, I've been hearing from small businesses in my state about the SBA grants that have been canceled and frozen. One example is you canceled a $2.5 million regional innovation cluster contract in Washington State that would have supported small businesses that were working on carbon capture and utilization and storage. It's not an isolated case, but that is a program that Congress historically funded with strong bipartisan support. I wanted to ask you today, why have you canceled funding for a program that has bipartisan support and really drives small business growth in our emerging sectors?
Vice Chair, thank you for the question. Our regional innovation clusters are certainly mechanisms to deliver support, technical assistance to small businesses in various regions based on expertise in that region and the needs of that region. I have broad authority in this administration to reshape the regional innovation clusters, and we are undertaking a review of those programs to right-size them and form them to where the needs are most urgent. Right now, we've just announced that we have a regional innovation cluster centered around manufacturing because of the skills and efforts and the focus needed on that right now. But we intend to continue to pursue these programs based on the regional needs, and we'll be working.
I would just say this is a regional need, and I would just ask you to go back and look at that one. Happy to provide you information, but it really is a critical one for our region.
I'd be happy to work with your office.
Okay, and I wanted to say, I met with some small business owners in Seattle a few weeks ago. One of them runs a coffee shop and imports green tea. And like a lot of small business owners that I'm talking to, and you know, they operate on very thin margins, so the current tariffs are hitting them really hard. We don't grow green tea in the United States. I doubt we ever will. And given that that increased cost imposed by those tariffs could really, he told me, shutter his business, what should they do in this situation?
So this period of negotiation, is not one where we don't acknowledge their near-term effects, but for the long term, we want to have a situation.
This is a small business. They can't last much longer.
Well, what we're focused on is ensuring that we never get in the position again of having unfair trade. And that's what President Trump's fighting for. That's what we're fighting for. We just yesterday put out our Make Onshoring Great Again directory to ensure that small businesses have access to a million suppliers across this country that can offer
But
alternatives
this
to
country
them.
doesn't produce green tea, and this small business is not going to last more than a few months. I hear your bigger scheme is that someday this will all pay off. This small business won't be there. I'm just asking you,
Yep.
what are they supposed to do? Are you going to do you have anything drafted? Are you looking at anything that can help these small businesses who are on the verge of closing right now? And they can't wait 2, 3, 5, 6 months from now.
Well, what the SBA is offering is certainly the capital, the counseling that they need, as well as import and export loan financing to deal with these times of uncertainty. But the uncertainty is going to be short-lived. President Trump already has 75 countries at the negotiating table. We've already cut deals with China and the UK, and there's more to come. And small businesses are benefiting because inflation is down, because we're having $10 trillion of investment that we've never had in this country. We have economic opportunity on the horizon that is really unprecedented.
I appreciate that you have an optimistic view. I'm just telling you, having sat down and met with these small businesses, whether it's shutting the regional SBA office or canceling these grants to support our entrepreneurs, or these tariffs that are having impact on, there are small businesses that will not make it based on your optimism.
And there are small businesses that are going to be struggling if we don't pass this tax bill too. So small businesses unfortunately bear a lot of headwinds of uncertainty right now, specifically with regard to the tax bill that will affect 100% of all
I'm
small
not here to talk about the
businesses.
tax bill. I'm talking about our little shop owners that aren't going to make it.
Well, small businesses
But I
obviously
appreciate
face a
your
number of.
response. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Murray. Turn to Senator Bozeman now.
Thank you. It's great to have you here, Administrator Senator Loeffler. We miss you, but we're very, very proud of the great work that you're doing. And I know that your heart is certainly in this, and you are doing a very, very good job. I guess the first question I'd have is just, as a committee, what tools can we give you in your toolbox? You've been out and about and touring and, trying to figure out the world is very different now than it was a year or so ago. What additional authorities do we need to give you, or how can we help you?
Well, Senator, thank you for the question. It is humbling to serve our nation's 34 million small businesses and then to be able to walk their restaurant floors, their showroom floors, their factory floors with them and listen to what their needs are. And their needs are really along the lines of reduced regulation. They've suffered from 4 years of trillions of dollars of burdensome regulation. They almost faced a $4 trillion tax increase if we don't get this tax bill passed, the uncertainty from that. They're focused on skilled workforce. They really need support on attracting that workforce into these what we call new collar jobs for the fusion of technology and manufacturing, which is very exciting and is going to provide an on-ramp into the economy for towns that have been hollowed out by the prior 3 decades of shipping our jobs overseas. And so obviously our focus is on deregulating, supporting the tax cuts, providing capital, which we're doing at record levels for small businesses who are investing in themselves, and ensuring that they have the access to the counseling through our small business development centers. I'm also really pleased with our work to support our veterans who had been virtually left behind during the Biden administration. And so what we are seeing is an opportunity to get the social engineering out of the SBA, get back to Main Street, leave behind the bureaucracy that had been built up over the last 4 years. And then finally, small businesses want us to pursue the fraud that has happened in this agency that was swept under the rug the last 4 years and get back to focusing the resources on them. They're already seeing the impact in the field. They said that they feel that the Small Business Administration is now there for them again. And so, continuing to support our funding and certainly the bipartisan Made in America Manufacturing Finance Act would be tremendous to continue to put America first.
One of the things, I'm always amazed at as you learn about the small business program, just how broad it is and the tremendous things that can be offered to our small businesses. A lot of small businesses simply don't know. And I guess my question would be, how can we help you? How can you help yourselves? What are we doing to make it such that small business is aware that there's this great vehicle out there that this committee, has worked hard to support through the years, so that they can actually benefit from the opportunities?
Well, we certainly take that responsibility very seriously to get the word out. That's why we've put 30% of our staff into the field. We'd love to partner with your offices in the field to make sure that they know the resources available. We'll be working with the Veterans Administration to reach our veterans in the field collaboratively, the USDA as well. So we would look forward to visiting Arkansas. We've certainly our hearts go out to those impacted by recent disasters, and we've been on the ground serving disasters. In fact, we've put out more disaster loans in the first 100 days of President Trump's administration than all of the last year of President Biden's administration. So we are back on the ground in local communities, and would welcome the opportunity to work with your office to support Arkansas small businesses.
Right. Tell me about the small business loan volumes. What is SBA being able to accomplish in the first 100 days regarding small business loans?
Yeah, so you're asking specifically about the loan program? Yeah, so we operate two core loan programs, the 7A loan program. We've seen tremendous increase in interest in that program. That's largely because we've put the guardrails back on the lending standards. Our lenders were very confused by the rolling back of the guardrails around underwriting during the Biden administration that unfortunately for that 4-year cohort drove a $2.2 billion negative cash flow for a program that should operate at no cost to taxpayers. So we've cleaned up the underwriting standards and tightened that so that all small businesses that qualify have access to that, but that we aren't funding businesses that don't qualify. Our 504 loan program is also one that will benefit from the increase from $5 to $10 million in manufacturing. That's a fixed capital asset program really aimed at restaurants and manufacturers, asset-based businesses. We're probably going to have the second highest year in that loan program in terms of volume. So we see an interest in Main Street businesses, rural communities, investing and growing thanks to President Trump's economic agenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. I'll call on Senator Van Hollen now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it was good to work with you when you were ranking member, and I can't say that I'm happy we switched places, but congratulations, Senator Reid. Thank you for taking on the ranking member position. Administrator Loeffler, welcome. I want to pick up actually on the SBA's role when it comes to disaster relief. I was out in Western Maryland on Friday. It's a beautiful part of our state, but it just got hit really hard by massive floods. The waters rose at an incredible rate, 3 feet per hour. In some places, the waters rose as high as 23 feet. You may have seen some of the images of students at Western Port Elementary School being evacuated by boat. So lots of damage done. I was out there surveying sort of the aftermath. The great news is communities are pulling together. And the emergency responders were doing a great job. But lots of damage to small businesses, to homes, to personal property. I have been concerned to hear Secretary Noem talking about the possible elimination of FEMA. That's a debate for another day and another hearing. And I've been concerned about their talking about not allowing smaller disasters qualify for some of the FEMA declarations and relief, because as you well know, it may be small on the larger scheme of things nationally, but they can be very intense locally, and the losses can be huge relative to the local jurisdictions, towns' ability to handle them. So I just did want to get your reassurance with respect to the SBA disaster loan program. When we had the collapse of the Key Bridge in Baltimore, Because that wasn't a natural disaster, that didn't qualify for a FEMA declaration. But the Small Business Administration was there, and I do want to thank all the men and women at the Small Business Administration that played an important role there. And so my question to you today is very straightforward. Given what just happened in Western Maryland, can I get your commitment that you will work with us? I think the governor's likely, not final, to make a damage assessment and declaration based on the surveys that they've been doing. And I would just like your assurance that you would work with us to make sure that if it qualifies, if the damage qualifies for the current criteria for SBA damage relief, that we could try to expedite that.
Absolutely, Senator. And my prayers are with all who are impacted. Our team is already actively evaluating that. And as you know, an SBA declaration can be made even if there's not a FEMA declaration. So we will be on that very quickly, as we have been, and ensure that we provide whatever relief we possibly can.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I walked, like the local library, the mud was 3 feet deep, the book collection pretty much wiped out. Same with the local fire department was in better shape, but lots of damage. If I could turn to student loans, because you mentioned some of the SBA traditional loan programs like the 7A program. We've been hearing, although I haven't heard this confirmed, there's a possibility that people are trying to move the student loan programs from the Department of Education to the Small Business Administration. My understanding is, I think it's pretty clear that would require congressional action. Number one, do you share that view, and are you expecting to make that request as part of the upcoming budget or through other legislation?
Senator, at this time, the repayments on the student loans have just started under the Department of Education. And we will be working closely with the Department of Education, Treasury, the White House, and all of you in Congress to determine the best path forward. And I do strongly support President Trump's decision to return educational funds to the states where they belong, with students and local education officials. But at this moment, there has been no final decision, and we will all be working closely together on that.
No, okay, I appreciate it. I don't want to get into a debate about this, but you do agree that in order to make those changes, that would require a change in the statute, right?
Senator, I'll defer to the White House as to the path that they're going to take to make those changes. At this time, I don't have anything to announce.
Okay, and just to make sure I understood your answer correctly, and you're not planning to make those proposed changes as part of the SBA budget request?
Until I have further conversations with the White House, I don't have any budget requests to announce at this time.
Okay, anyway, thank you.
Just let me follow up on Senator Van Hollen. Last March, the President said in the Oval Office, I've decided that the SBA, the Small Business Administration, headed by Kelly Loeffler, a terrific person, will handle all of the student loan portfolio. We have a portfolio that's very large. That's a quote from the President. He is reconsidering this decision now?
Senator, what we're focused on is supporting the White House's decisions and ensuring that we're able to take on whatever the President would ask us to do, and we would be working with the Department of Education and with Treasury should such a transition be made. And it's our agency operates a $444 billion loan portfolio that performs very well. It's a public-private partnership through lenders, much like the Department of Education's program is with outsourced servicing and so forth. But we will be working with the White House on next steps.
Well, this portfolio is $1.6 trillion, and it has 43 million borrowers. And it'd be very difficult, I think, for any agency to assume that, particularly as we progress into the year and we don't have any direction. And also, if you're cutting your workforce by 43%, where will you get the people to run this very complicated loan program. And I must reemphasize what Senator Van Hollen said. You need congressional authorization to make this transfer. And so if you don't propose it, then it can't be done. And I hope you can communicate that back to the White House. Just let me go one final point here on veterans. You're cutting veterans programs, and it seems to me inappropriate. You're cutting the Veterans Outreach Programs, which include Veterans Business Outreach Centers, the Boots to Business Program, and the Service Disabled Veteran Entrepreneurship Training Program. I think we should be doing more for veterans, not less. So why are you cutting aid to veterans?
Ranking Member, I'm glad you asked. There is no stronger champion of veterans than President Trump, and that's why he plussed up the Veterans Administration budget by $5 billion. And as the daughter and granddaughter of veterans, my father actually started a business based on what he learned in the military for trucking. And I'm proud of the work we're doing at SBA to actually grow our veterans outreach. What we had seen was our veterans work had been crowded out by the DEI initiatives. We've rectified that. We're getting the small business contracting targets for veterans met again by reducing arbitrary DEI limits that the Biden administration had put in. This week alone, we're conducting 15 veterans outreach efforts for Boots to Business and Reboot to serve our veterans in their local communities. And I'm excited to partner with Secretary Collins at the VA for an MOU we have to streamline the Vet Cert and Vet Biz on-ramp into the small business ecosystem, and then also working with the Department of Defense Transition Assistance Program as veterans come into that transition phase and looking at starting a small business. So veterans are going to find that we are not cutting the VBOX. We are simply ensuring that they're working with our small business development centers, of which there are 1,000 across the country, along with our PCRs, which are our procurement center representatives, putting them on base at military installations to better support that small business ecosystem. So I'm really optimistic that we are going to make small business more accessible to more veterans than has ever been true before.
Well, I don't think the numbers are quite as supportive. You are planning to integrate these veterans programs into the SBDCs and providing a $10 million increase this year. Last year, or the last in FY24, the level of congressional funding was $18.5 million. So what you're proposing is a 46% decrease in funding directed to veterans. And the numbers, I don't think, lie.
Ranking Member, if you will, that's a floor, that's a $10 million floor minimally that we are putting into VBOX, but also note that we talked about our district outreach at 68 district offices in addition to 1,000 SBDCs. So we have quite a network, and those are already delivering those Boots to Business and Reboot efforts and the outreach on base. So we are going to supercharge the resources that we have and make them front and center for veterans, as opposed to what happened in the last administration where everything was brought back to Washington and the veterans outreach was basically non-existent. There's no stronger champion of veterans than President Trump and myself, and we are going to make sure that we make a difference working alongside Secretary Collins and the Department of Defense.
Well, thank you, Madam Administrator. Appreciate your testimony. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Madam Administrator, for appearing before our subcommittee today. Our members will have 1 week to submit questions for the record. Due May 28th, I would appreciate it if your office could respond to those questions as soon as possible. With that, this subcommittee is adjourned.